What is a sales process? Today, I'm going to be looking at two perspectives, or rather, let's say three perspectives regarding this. Uh, One perspective of sales in the work and domestic situation, another one which applies in the commercial space, and then we're going to look at the question ultimately whether you should have a process or a framework for what it is that you do when you're trying to sell as a wedding vendor. So, what's a sales process? A sales process is one that is aimed at persuasion. Now, I use the word persuasion because I'm thinking about normal everyday activities, your typical work context or your typical domestic context, at the office or at home. Now, sales and selling is aimed at persuasion because sales principles can be applied in all and every single kind of human interaction. For those of you who have kids, you know that you're continually trying to sell your kids on why you should learn. That's a conversation that I have with my son, the older one, who is slightly over 5 years old, and we have that conversation almost every other day because I want him to learn his ABCs and his 1, 2, 3s, and for us to learn, a few other things here and there. But he'd rather watch Super Y or Blue's Clues, Blaze and the Monster Machines, and all the other interesting stuff on TV. Oh, and this one with the monkey. What's it called? Chico Bonbon or something like that. There's a monkey that's an engineer who builds really wild and creative stuff, and my son has really had a liking to that recently. Anyway, so bottom line, I'm trying to say that we're selling all the time. We're selling to our kids. We're selling to our spouses. And if you're one of those wedding vendors who has a 9 to 5 and who's doing the wedding thing on the side, then you're continually also selling when you're at the work environment. Let's say when you get to the office and you're with your colleagues. Let's say you work in Zenith Bank. You're continually trying to get people aligned on the same goal that you have or what you think is critical for the organization. So typically we are selling every day, whether we're convincing colleagues because of initiatives for the organization, or we're trying to sell our kids on what it is important for them to do, or we're trying to convince our spouse on what we think the appropriate mission and the way forward for the family is. So we're always selling. And if you take the discipline of selling and personal sales seriously, then you're going to be able to learn principles that will help you in these everyday activities at work and at home. So, what's a sales process? It's one that is aimed at persuasion and is going to help you in these everyday home and work life type of contexts. Now, to the commercial application of sales principles. The sales process is a process that is aimed at influencing a customer to buy. Now, that is what 98% of us think about when we first hear the term sales process, and that is indeed the focus of the podcast. It has been from the beginning and will continue so until the end of the podcast, whenever that might be. But just remember that it also has personal applications as well. Now, I'll skip to the last perspective that I want us to look at, and that is, should sales be a process or a framework? The reason why I'm asking this question is because there are lots of us who believe that I'm good, I'm quick on my feet, I'm real sharp, I talk good, I look good, I dress good. So there's no reason for me to have a framework because I can just freestyle and I'll be fine. And yes, freestyling is okay. Freestyling, I like to call it toasting. Freestyling, toasting, yeah, it works in the beginning. The problem is it doesn't give you the opportunity for repeatable success, because when you're freestyling, you're not taking a note of what it is that's working and what it is that is missing the mark. Now, when you freestyle, yes, you might be able to do that, but if you have a process that you've already thought out and you've committed to you've committed it to paper, or you've committed it to something, basically a process that you can review from time to time, you're going to be able to look at things and say, okay, this aspect of my approach is where things fall off, or everything is cool up until the point when it comes to picking up the check. I don't have a convincing way of getting people to uh, to to drop the check or to make the account transfer or whatever. So when you have a well thought out process or framework, you're going to increase your chances for repeatable success, because you're going to have a diagnostic tool to be able to say, I'm good here, I am so here, and I'm totally weak here. So this is where I need to work on. So that's why we need the sales framework for repeatable success, and because you're going to be able to easily diagnose problems when you're selling or when you're communicating with your brides and grooms. Now, given that we should have a sales process, we should have a framework, we should have a script, whatever it is that you want to call it. Some people don't like script because it sounds too scripted, in quote. Some people don't like the word framework. I mean, people have lots of hang-ups about the term. So whatever term it is that you want to pick, just pick a term. But in principle, in my opinion, it's all the same. Whether you have a process, you have a framework, you have a script, you have a guideline, you have a statement of true north, whatever it is you want to call it, just pick whatever term. It's absolutely fine with me. Now, should this process, framework, or script be rigid? That means, should it be typed out on a piece of paper, and do you have to stick to it every single time? Now, that depends on how familiar you are with the process. You sit down, you think about it, you come up with a sales process or a script, and the thing is, since it's not native to you yet, you're going to forget certain steps or certain principles in this process that you've come up with. So in the early days, I think you should have it written out, typed out on your phone, sheet of paper, diary, whatever it is that works for you, so that you can look at it and you can follow the process in a sequential manner. Now, eventually, you're going to become really, really, really familiar with the process. The more phone calls, the more meetings, and the more emails that you handle. And after a while, some of these things are going to become rote, and you'll be able to do it from memory. And that's because your process, your framework, your script, your whatever it is you want to call it, would have now become internalized and will be an integral part of how you do business, and it'll be an integral part of you. So eventually you get to the point where you can ditch the script. But in the beginning, I believe that you should have the framework where you can see it and you can follow it rigidly until you internalize it to the extent that you can be having a cold nap, really lost in your dreams, and then the phone rings and you can wake up just like that, pick up the phone, and game face on, and you flow on with your sales process. So that's my own opinion. Yes, have a rigid framework in the beginning. Start playing it loose when you have really internalized your script. Now, how do you come up with your own sales process? It's twofold. You can come up with yours from scratch, which is what a lot of us do, because we don't realize that there are already available processes out there that people have tried to do in other kinds of industries, which you can take and tweak and which might apply. So for those of you who've been listening for a while, you're familiar that one of the processes that I like to use is something that was created by Tom Hopkins and some other fellow, his co-author, I can't remember his name, and it's something that has been built around the real estate industry, and that their own process is built around trust, need, help, and hurry. Those are the critical factors that you have to walk through when you have a potential client before you. Now, the reason why I like it is it's easy to remember, it's pretty simple, and it's something that is easily adapted to those of us who are in the wedding space. So, does the person trust you yet? What can you do to build trust? Is there a valid need, and is that need something that you can fulfill? How do you dig in? So that's trust, need. Then there's help. Okay, yes. So how is it that that your service is going to be able to improve the customer's life. So I mean, how can your wedding planning services uh, improve? I mean, make the bride and her family happier. And then hurry. The hurry aspect is when you get people to commit to drop the check, to send you that transfer, the deposit, and take things to the next stage. So you can see trust, need, help, hurry. Very easy to remember, and it's easy to apply to those of us in the wedding space, even though it was something that was built for the wedding industry. Now, the trust, need, help, and hurry heads each have sub-segments, and we'll get into that in a future episode. But bottom line, I'm just trying to let you guys know that there are other frameworks out there that have been created by people for different industries, whether insurance, real estate, medical sales, retail. I mean, for those of you who had your masters abroad, particularly in the UK, is something that you would have been exposed to. The sales script for the retail process. You walk into a store, you're just looking around, and then somebody walks up to you and says, "Can I help?" Typically, you say, "Oh no, no thanks. I'm just having a look around." But the thing is, research has shown, well, at least old research anyway, that when you walk up to someone and say, "Can I help?" in a retail situation, it increases the prospect of a sale by, I think, 33%. So that initial question, "Can I help?" you can see that it's part of a sales process which increases sales by so and so percent, but it also has a number of subroutines under it about how you move people along with through the sale. So if someone says, "Can I help?" and you say, "Oh yes, I'm looking for," the person will now have other sub questions to run you through. So bottom line, there are other frameworks out there that you can explore. But if you want to come up with your own bespoke solution, you want to come up with your own uniquely crafted sales process, I recommend you fool around with this in the beginning before trying out others. You have to answer a couple of questions. Your sales process should run you through some questions. So, in no particular order, some of the questions which you have to consider are: who are your ideal customers? Where do they hang out? Where can you find them? How do you approach them? What's the best way to approach them? How do you determine if there's a fit? You want to be sure that you guys have a meeting of minds, because if there's no meeting of minds, it's going to be a terrible experience for both of you, and there's not going to be any possibility of future business from there. Or even if there's future business, it's going to be the kind of clients that you don't like, the kind of weddings that you don't like planning, or the kind of weddings that you don't like photographing. And then how do you get them to buy? And then how do you get them to come back with some more business? So they're done with the wedding. How do you get them back for the maternity shoot, the baby shower, the baptism, the naming, the birthday parties, and on and on and on. And then, of course, the weddings from their sisters, cousins, colleagues, and so on and so forth. So if you're coming up with your own bespoke sales process, these are some of the questions that you have to consider. If you look at other sales podcasts out there, or just do some Googling, you'll find some other questions that you should consider when coming up with your own bespoke process. But remember what I said. You can also research what is available out there. There are other frameworks that have been made for other industries that you can apply to the wedding industry. In fact, on one of the sales podcasts I listened to, there was someone who called in and he said he didn't like so and so process because it was invented by so and so person, and it was for people who are in the knife and kitchen utensils sales industry. And then the host of the show said, his response was, "Look, don't be silly. Every time you see knives," he was talking to a real estate person, "every single time you see knives, take out knives and then put in real estate and read the whole thing again. Does it work or doesn't it work? If it does, it's something worth considering. If it's not, then chuck it." So if you're going to look at other processes that are out there, that's the mind frame to take. So it might be something from insurance, but have a look at it. Let's say you're married to someone who is an insurance salesperson. In fact, my video guy is married to an insurance saleswoman, and so it would be an interesting activity for you to try out. So let's say your husband is the one, my wife is the one who sells insurance with whatever AXA, Mansard, or whatever, and they have a training manual. Have a look at their training manual, see what the sales process is. Every single time you see sales process, so every single time you see insurance, annuity, or whatever those technical terms are, remove it and put wedding planning back there, put photography there, put cake baking there, or whatever, and then see how it works. And you'll be surprised that there's some principles that apply across industries and maybe some that will not work so well. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Abuja-based photographer Tavishima Ayede. Any questions, comments, or inquiries, hit me up on email ayede.taver@gmail.com. I am on Twitter at AYEDETAVER. No space, no underscore there. Hopefully it's not cap sensitive. Then let's see what else. Oh yes, and then of course, for those of you who like to WhatsApp or Telegram and all of that good jazz, 080-6466-2140. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. I'll catch you all on the next episode.